All right, we are recording. Hello, everyone. My name is Paige. I am a dietitian and culinary educator here at Boston Medical Center. You are here at our WellSense class, our class sponsored by WellSense Health Plan. And today we will be making a cranberry barbecue chicken sandwich, as well as a cherry lime mocktail. I'm very excited to make both of these with you today. I'm really trying to lean into the seasonal flavors. We're incorporating some cranberry sauce. I know we just had a major holiday where you might have some extra cranberry sauce lying around. So hopefully this inspires you to use up your extra cranberry sauce. But without further ado, we will go ahead and get into it. Just a friendly reminder, if you have a question and you would like to unmute, please feel free. If you're cooking along with me, awesome. Unmute yourself, let me know how it's going, ask questions. If not, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Ask questions in the chat, and we will go ahead and get started with our sandwich. So I'm going to spotlight our workstation here. All right, so what I have going on here is I have some aromatics. I have some diced onion that I diced before class because I didn't want to cry. I have some garlic we're gonna mince together. I have my tomato paste, I have my molasses and my vinegar, and I have my dried herbs and spices, as well as my leftover cranberry sauce. Before class started, I went ahead and I began poaching our chicken. So when you poach chicken, it's a really great way to cook chicken because you are really going to maximize the moisture and the juiciness by using this cooking method. And you want to start by placing your chicken in a saucepan with about 3/4 of the way full. So that way there's lots of water able to surround the chicken. And you want to cover it with either chicken or stock. I'm sorry, chicken or stock or water or broth. And if you want to add some aromatics in the water, you can as well. I added some salt. What we're going to do now is we're going to bring this liquid to a gentle simmer over medium-high heat. We don't really want to boil because that can make the chicken really tough. We're going to make it simmer really gently. And once we get those really small bubbles, which I'm seeing a few pop now, we will turn the heat off. And well, we probably won't turn it off. We'll turn it down to low because my burner is not as powerful as my gas stove. So just to make sure it keeps the heat, um, I will cover it with a lid and it's going to poach for about 10 minutes. I recommend always having your thermometer handy. This is an electric thermometer from Amazon, about 10 bucks. If you're someone who's scared to cook chicken, I'm not scared, but I also know there's lots of room for error if you're trying new cooking methods. So it's always great to have this on hand. We want to cook our chicken to about 165 degrees to ensure that if it may have come in contact with any foodborne pathogens, we are going to make sure that we kill them off when we cook them to that temperature. Different meats need to be cooked at different temperatures. Poultry in particular needs to be at about 165, where something like a steak doesn't have to go as high. It can be lower, like 145. But that's just maintaining good safety practices. So as we have our chicken beginning to poach here, I'm going to go ahead and dice up my garlic. I'm just slicing it. I will be honest with you all, I am a big time-saving hack person in the kitchen. So it is pretty often that I buy the pre-minced garlic. Granted, I do truly believe that when you mince it fresh, it does have that higher potency because you're really getting that fresh fragrance, which adds to that flavor. Um, you smell something with your nose and you can somewhat taste it in your mouth, but I am sometimes, always trying to find ways to keep me in the kitchen without getting overwhelmed because I think that is something that happens to everyone. We're in the kitchen, cooking for families or ourselves, multiple meals, we work jobs, we have kids in sports, we have hobbies, we want to see our family, all that stuff. So if using minced garlic is easier, that's quite all right. If using garlic powder works better, that's also quite all right. This is gonna go into our homemade barbecue sauce with our cranberry sauce. And I will just provide a quick backstory on this sauce. I used frozen cranberries that were like from the grocery store, right? I've seen some places like Aldi have cranberries for $1. Some places they're like $4, wherever you can get your cheaper cranberries. I put them in a pot of water. You can see it's pretty thick. I put them in a pot of water with the cranberries, about this much water over the cranberries, like almost equal part water, equal part cranberries with a little bit more water. I boiled them and then I let them simmer until they broke down into this beautiful thicker sauce. And then to sweeten it, because these cranberries are quite tart, which I don't mind, I added some maple syrup, and I also added a little squeeze of orange juice from an orange, as well as a little bit of orange zest to brighten it up. I think if you love like a cranberry jelly, it's obviously going to be a lot less sweet, but you're gonna really get to experience those natural tart flavors from the cranberries. All right, we have our garlic minced. If you want to really, 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 really finely mince it, you can. Like if you want to make it super, super, super tiny, you can. Again, if you wanted to use a powder, you can. I think for my sauce, this is perfect. I don't mind chunks because I have some white onion in here. My white onion, I will tell you, a really cool thing that I've been doing that also really helps me speed up time in the kitchen is I do all my chopping at once. And what I mean by that is I will take not just one onion, I will take 6 or 7 onions, right? And I will dice them all up, and I will take what I need and I will take the rest and I will put them in Ziploc bags and put them in my freezer. I used to purchase them pre-frozen. They're kind of expensive because you're paying for someone else to do the labor. Whereas if I'm already going to do the labor one time, I will just add that to my task list where I'll just chop them all up. Takes an extra 10-15 minutes, and I put them in a bag and then I keep them in the freezer. They'll probably last 3 to 6 months. And I did that with carrots, I did that with celery, and I did that with diced bell pepper that were borderline ready to get thrown away, but I didn't have any use for them. So that is my tip to you this holiday season. I know we have another large holiday coming up. We have New Year's. We have another good holiday coming up with Hanukkah. So if you are going to be hosting and doing lots of cooking, my tip to you is to do your chopping now, throw them in the freezer. So when the time comes, you can get them out and let them thaw, or you can just toss them into your pot with some oil then. That is a really easy way to just kind of be able to be more in the moment when you're there cooking with family. And, if you can accomplish that prior, then you're good to go. We are going to keep letting our chicken poach here. We are not quite to the point at which I want to turn my temperature down, but I will get my tongs and I will flip them. Is anyone here an expert at poaching eggs? I wish I was. Eggs are so hard for me to poach. I always end up breaking them. And check the chat here and see if anyone is an egg expert. Okay, let's see. Oh, we do have a question in the chat. I think this is more a question for everyone than just for me. Do any of you get everything prepped for cooking, like cutting and chopping? Yes. Does anyone out there already do that? I know that was just a tip I recommended, but does anyone already out there do that? It seems like my friend Tusi says she cleans as she goes as well, which is awesome. That is my biggest piece of advice as well to people cooking outside the holiday season is to clean as you go. I promise you, promise you, promise you. I feel the pain of that. I always clean as I go, but I don't when I teach classes. So when I get off the camera, I have dishes all over my workstation, all over my back counter, and all over my dining room table. Um, it feels quite a heavy lift to clean everything up, but I promise you, if you clean as you go, it will really, really, really help. especially if cooking in general is just a big lift for you. But let's talk about chicken for a little bit. Chicken is a really great source of lean protein, which is why it's really great for this recipe, whether you're going to have it for lunch or for dinner. Um, it's really low in fat, but it's packed with good nutrients to keep your body strong and to give you energy. Also, really cool tip. If you're looking for a visual aid to let you know what a good size of protein is that we need, I always like to use the hand reference. Now, if you're someone, the hand reference, if you're someone who has extremely large hands or extremely small hands, that could be a little disproportionate, but the size of your palm can represent roughly a deck of cards, roughly about 3 ounces, which for chicken breasts, about 3 ounces of a serving of chicken breast has 26 grams of protein. So there's no need to buy a protein shake. If you have chicken prepped and ready, just like this sandwich, you have the perfect protein source coming at you. I think we're at a good point here. I am going to actually, we'll switch cameras. Replace spotlight. There we go. I'm going to actually turn this down to low. And I'm going to cover. I can see that there is some small bubbles, but it's hard to tell from the camera because of all of the film rising to the top. All right, so whenever we are done with this, we'll make our barbecue sauce. But we need to move our chicken. So I'm gonna go ahead and replace and move my chicken. All right, I threw a timer on for 10 minutes for our chicken to continue poaching. After those 10 minutes, I'm gonna use my handy dandy thermometer and I'm gonna check in on my chicken and just test it to make sure that we are around our 165. So that way we can consume our, we can consume our chicken when we're ready. All right, now let's move on to our sauce. Let me get my knife out of my way. All right. So I'm letting my pan heat up a bit. I have a stainless steel pan here. A good way to work with stainless steel if it makes you nervous because it's super hard to work with due to those non-stick. It doesn't have the non-stick properties. Heating your pan up is a great way to allow those natural pores in the actual pan from the stainless steel to close up. So when I put the oil in, the oil will glide. I'm sure some of you have seen those videos where people flick water into a properly heated pan and it kind of circles around in little balls. So it's not being like, it's not dispersing down. It's hot enough that it can just glide around the top. So I can feel my pan is getting pretty hot. We'll go ahead and add our oil. It's just a good way to approach cooking with stainless steel to just really prevent that sticking because it will over time make your pan look corroded on the inside. You can see sometimes I don't follow that rule very well. It's probably hard to tell on the camera, but gonna let that oil heat up a little bit. All right, we're gonna start with our onion. All right, I'm just checking the chat here. All right, we're all good. We're gonna start with our onion and we're gonna let our onion get a nice golden color at first before we add our garlic. Contrary to popular belief, we should not add them at the same time. I am very guilty of doing that if I'm in a rush and I don't really care. But we want to add the onion first because it's going to take longer for it to brown. Garlic burns very easily. So if we add them together, it's kind of like throwing a zucchini and a sweet potato in the oven at the same time. That sweet potato is going to take way longer than the zucchini, who is really soft and tender. And when this caramelizes, it creates a beautiful, yummy flavor that we really want to heighten. Garlic is super aromatic, so, oh no. I thought that would sizzle more. There we go. My pan isn't holding very good heat with this burner. Anyways, garlic will burn easier just because it is more delicate, and we don't want that. We just really want the aromatic flavors to shine through there. So we're gonna let that heat up. making sure it's got enough space to properly cook without being overcrowded. All right. There we go. Now it's up to 10. Perfect. Beautiful. We're going to let that cook. Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about cranberries while we go ahead and get our onions nice and browned, and then we throw in our garlic. So cranberries are a really versatile ingredient that's going to bring sweetness, tang, and a ton of health benefits to your barbecue sauce and your plate. They're especially rich in antioxidants, which are tiny little bodyguards protecting your cells from damage. Sometimes when we purchase cranberry sauce at the store, they can be really, really high in added sugars. So if you're shopping and buying yours at the store, take a glance at the back of the can and try to opt for brands that are going to have less, or make your own like I defaulted to so I could control the sweetness. In this dish, the cranberry's tartness complements the savoriness of the rest of the ingredients in the barbecue sauce. So it's really going to add this layer of depth to the dish without really overcomplicating it. Cranberries have really wonderful antioxidants in them. We could go through and list all of them, but there is a particular antioxidant known as proanthocyanins, which are an acronym that are commonly labeled on cranberry things called PACs, which are unique to cranberries. And these compounds are known for their role in promoting urinary tract health. So if you've ever suffered from a UTI or just general urinary health in general, it's because of that particular type of antioxidant that's unique to cranberries. And those particular antioxidants, those packs, help prevent bacteria like E. coli from adhering to the walls of the bladder and the urinary tract. So they actually do serve a purpose. All right, we're burning. We're getting nice and brown. We'll add our garlic. Beautiful. For that, we will add our spices because we don't need our garlic to burn. I have dry mustard and chili powder here. And then we're going to add in our tomato paste. Need to add a little bit more oil here. I do have a timer on for the chicken, so that way I don't let that fall through the cracks. The only thing that will happen to the chicken if we let it cook too long is it'll get a bit more rubbery. But because we are chopping this up and putting it in a sandwich with a sauce, it's not too detrimental. If you would, per se, overcook it. Now, make sure I get all my tomato paste. Beautiful. Look at that base for our sauce. It's lovely. Again, if you don't like chunks, you could at this point throw this into a food processor. You could just use garlic powder and onion powder. All right. We're going to now add our cranberry sauce. Beautiful. And we're going to add a little bit of water. If this barbecue sauce doesn't seem like something you would want to use, but you still have leftover cranberry sauce, you could add your remaining cranberry jelly or sauce to something like a beverage, like if you have seltzer, that will add some natural sweetness, but also some tart flavors to make a fun beverage. You could put it on top of Greek yogurt. You could use it in a sandwich, especially if there were a lot of turkey dinners. That would be really yummy in a turkey sandwich. Or you could also use it as a base to add some fruity flavors to a vinaigrette since it is very nicely tart. All right, we have about a minute 30 left in our chicken over there. I'm just going to take a peek and make sure it's not boiling. All right, it is not boiling, which is good. For our sandwich, we are going to use these sandwich buns. The grocery store was out of just a regular hamburger bun, so I'm using these tiny thin ones. So honestly, you could probably have two of these. I know sandwich thins are very popular. You could use a pita pocket. You could do no bread, and you could do the shredded chicken with this barbecue sauce on a bed of rice. You could add it to a salad. You could do this in lots of different ways. I'm just going to check the chat here. All right, we're looking good. Okay, so we're going to let this heat up a little bit. Just making sure that the heat's still shining through. Awesome. All right. So now what we're going to do is while we wait for our barbecue sauce to get up to temp, is we're going to assemble our mocktail. We'll move that out of the way. So we have some ingredients here. We have some ice. We have, oh, all right, let me take the chicken out so it can cool. I'll do a quick test. All right, we have one chicken breast that is ready to rock. I have it sitting over here. We are going to go ahead and get rolling on our mocktail. We have a lime. I'm going to cut it in half. I'm also going to cut a slice for a garnish. We're going to go ahead and add our cherries. We will add lime juice. If you don't have a juicer at home, like I don't have a juicer, what I like to do is take a fork, shove in there, and twist it as I twist the rind. Okay. And whatever your sparkling water of choice is, I have some San Pellegrino. We are going to add a splash to your cherries. All right. Now, yes. All right. We are going to blend. I'm going to mute myself so that way it's not super loud over the camera. All right. Now we have our mixture ready. And this is a fun beverage, so we need a fun glass. I have my Christmas tree glass. We will add some ice. All right, so now we are going to add our bubble water. I'm gonna go ahead and throw some rosemary in there. Garnishes are so fun. I'm going to take my lime slice. I'm going to grab a spoon and I'm going to spoon in some of my cherry juice. If you do not have cherries, I had frozen cherries and I blended them up. If you do not have any cherry juice, or I'm sorry, whole cherries, skip this step, buy cherry juice or buy pomegranate juice, and we will mix the pomegranate juice with the lime juice. It is nice when you blend them because you're going to get some of that. Here, we'll do a spotlight replacement. You're going to get some of that pulp in there that's going to add a little bit of fiber. How fun is that, right? Oh, my super festive. Holiday glass is not required, but highly encouraged. Okay, we'll replace. There we go. All right. And I see that my friend Tusi said, what is that, a Ninja Mini blender? I've never seen one that blends with the jar on the bottom versus the top. Okay, great question, Tusi. Thank you for asking that. So this is a food processor. It is called the Express Chop. It is a little tiny food processor. You can get them in a larger size. It is super tiny, like it's about the size of my hand. So you could use a blender for this, but I usually always have my food processor out because, like Tusi mentioned, the blade sits higher up and it sits almost to halfway of this blending device, which is awesome because if you're going to be blending something and you want to make sure it's blended completely, this is a really great device to use in the kitchen. So it's good for thicker things. Like earlier today, I had a class where we made date energy balls. This is great because as the pieces that are not being incorporated into the batter go up, these blades are going to kick it back down. Versus a blender is good for things that are going to be more liquidy or thin because the blades sit at the bottom versus distributed through the top. So you could use either of those, but I usually always default to this if I want to blend up cottage cheese. If I need to take nuts and I need to blend them up, because as they get kicked around when they're being blended, they'll have a more even chop or mince, whatever you're looking for. Also for hummus, use this guy. It's really great. All right, our mocktail is assembled. Now, we need to make our sandwich. So we have our chicken here. All right, let's take my knife. And we're gonna slice. I did temp this guy, so he was all good. You can do dices, you can do slices, you can shred your chicken. I have a cool tip for you. If you have a stand mixer or you have hand mixers, you can throw your cooked chicken breast into that and it will essentially shred it for you. I usually hand shred with a fork, but it is a cool way to go about doing it. I'm gonna leave my chicken whole. Very last piece. And slice it up. Okay, perfect. Give my plate a little bit of a wipe. I have my Christmas plate. All right, I have my little tiny bun here. Let's check on our barbecue sauce. Get the steam out of the way. This actually smells phenomenal. I wonder if this will be something I try to make more often because think about how awesome it is to have some sneaky nutrition in a sauce like this, right? It's got a beautiful color. Beautiful. All right. If you have some slaw or anything of that nature at home and you want to add some like carrot slaw, some shredded lettuce to your sandwich, you can. I'm going to just actually slice these again. Perfect. Okay. I'm going to add them to my nice bed here. Beautiful. All right. Now it's time to sauce it up. This sauce smells phenomenal. Absolutely. Lazy girl hack, if you just want to take your old cranberry sauce and mix it with pre-made barbecue sauce because you don't have the capacity to make fresh barbecue sauce, you can definitely do that. Ways to use up those sauces. We'll give it a little cut. Ooh, look at that. Beautiful. All right, now, this looks phenomenal. Okay. Beautiful. Okay. And we have our cocktail. Now we need to do a taste test. Okay, here we go. This barbecue sauce smells so smoky, and I'm so impressed. That was a really simple sauce. That's really good. You like can taste the hint of cranberry, but it's not overpowering at all. I tested this recipe a week or two ago, and I wasn't thoroughly impressed, but I actually just mixed it with pre-made barbecue sauce. Oops, one of my dog's hairs. This is really good. That barbecue sauce would be really delicious on like chicken wings or something too. If you like spice, you could definitely add something to kick up the heat. That's really good. My tiny flimsy bun is making this rather messy, which is totally okay. Let me rinse my hands. I'm very impressed with that. So now let's wash it down with our cocktail. I'm sorry, my mocktail, not my cocktail. I like to call them fun beverages. Phenomenal. The cherries, I love cherries, and I always forget. I don't forget. They're expensive at the store. So a bag of frozen cherries was like $3 or $4, and I can add them to smoothies, and I can sweeten my own beverages. No extra added sugar, only natural sweetness, very low in calories, super hydrating. We have honestly a little bit of vitamin C coming in here from our citrus, from our lime. But overall, we are adding some vitamins and minerals because we're adding the whole blended up cherry, right? We're adding pulp as well. Very refreshing. If you are going to events where people are having alcoholic beverages and you're trying to cut back or you can't have them, really leaning into some fun mocktails is really wonderful. Because there's so many to add beverage or benefits. They're super inclusive. Everyone can have them for the most part, as long as there's no dietary restrictions, but very fun, very delicious. All right. All right. Well, thank you. I'm not going to end the class, but I'm going to go ahead and end the recording. So thank you for coming. Again, tonight's class was sponsored by Wellson's Health Plan. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.